What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Gin College Podcast. I'm your host, as always, John J. II, and thank you so much for joining us tonight on the 17th of August, 2023. We got a great episode in store for all of you, and we're excited to talk about these stories and breaking events. And basically, we're going to get into the SEC tonight. We're going to talk about it. We're going to dive into the East and the West, which is soon to be obsolete, pending what any further decisions will be made on the dynamic of the conference of the SEC, which is known as one of the super conferences, compared to the Big Ten, which is eventually going to be a super conference. We're going to dive into all that here shortly, but I want to bring in my co-host now, Cody Almasy. Cody, thank you so much for joining us tonight, buddy. How we doing, man? Talk to me.
Doing good, John. We're inching closer and closer to kickoff. I can almost smell the concession stands in the air, the sounds of cheering, and just the camaraderie and tradition that is college football. And we're about 10 days away after that. And, man, at the edge of my seat, we're starting to really talk some serious contenders when we're talking about these conferences, the SEC, next week, the Big Ten. But, yeah, I know lots of people who watch the show that we're in groups with. It's either SEC or Big Ten. It's what side of the fence are you on? I think where we kind of lie when it comes to that. But this week, we're going to talk the SEC. And, yeah, why not bring those two conferences together? Some old faces from the Big Ten making their way to the SEC. Some guys that me and John are really familiar with. His guy, Peyton Thorne from MSU, and my guy, our one-time guy, Joe Milton from the Michigan Wolverines, is they're in the SEC now. Some new endeavors are in front of them. And, yeah, let's get right into that. Let's talk about our old flames, if you will. Your guy here, Peyton Thorne, MSU, started everything, great. 11-1 his first year for you and the Sparties. And then we all know what happened last year, kind of a regression by anybody's consideration. And he's looking for a new start with the Auburn Tigers and their new head coach coming from Liberty, Hugh Freeze, and wants to really open up a new era here at Auburn. So I just want to hear what you have to say. What are your wishes, your expectations for Mr. Peyton Thorne here, and how do you think he does in the orange and blue?
Yeah, so, just to say a few things, Peyton looks like a goober in that graphic, by the way. Orange is not his color. It's not a good color for him. But basically, Peyton Thorne, and last year, we don't want to talk about last year because last year's in the past. We don't even want to talk about it. But Peyton Thorne, he had a lot of promise. He had a lot of accolades coming into his collegiate career. And as a Michigan State Spartan, he had a lot of promise. I think moving to the SEC, like we talked in the pre-show, you see a lot of athletes that might start in a super conference or a very prominent conference and then basically regress back into a less prominent conference, say a Mountain West or say a MAC conference. We've seen that happen quite often in basketball, and also we've seen it in football too. We see it time and time again with the transfer portal being more active than it's ever been in the history of college football. But Peyton Thorne, if you're going to put him on a team in the SEC, I think Auburn is a good fit. They're back on the up and up. I think they have a lot of promise going into the future. Not a lot of success going into the recent past, but you're looking for bigger and better things. You get the Iron Bowl there with Alabama, and you're looking forward to a good season. You're looking forward to prominence. So they must have seen something in Peyton Thorne at during his career at Michigan State. To expect that he's going to do something good or that he has some potential that hasn't been tapped into. So I'm expecting big things from him. Obviously, I'm going to be rooting for the hometown kid and hoping that he does well. But if State or any other Big Ten team comes across him in any way, shape, or form, he's dead to me. So that's just kind of how I see it, and I'm kind of cutthroat when it comes to that. So the SEC, it's like Michigan versus Ohio State. The SEC and the Big Ten, they're always going to clash heads. and that's going to become a rival. It's going to be a conference-wide rivalry. Oh, that's a SEC team. Oh, that's a Big Ten team. It's going to be like Romeo and Juliet, and it's just how it is. So I'm excited for that. I like that conference-wide rivalry, which seems to be forming right before our eyes, and it's exciting stuff, man.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely interesting when you get to see the SEC and Big Ten meet up in that capacity early on in the season. Um, Penn State, Auburn had a couple of meetings the last couple of years, and just interesting how those kind of different playing styles match up. But let me talk about Joe Milton and the Tennessee Volunteers a little bit here. Joe is in a different situation than Peyton, coming into new situation, new head coach, expectations not extremely high. But for Joe Milton, he's coming in replacing a guy, Hendon Hooker, now playing for our Detroit Lions. And Hendon Hooker was a Heisman finalist, and Tennessee is coming off one of their best years in a long time. We all know what happened in Neyland Stadium. They brought down the goalposts, and it went absolutely crazy in Knoxville. They were firing up cigars and partied in the streets until the following Monday. And that's what those Tennessee fans are expecting now. And the hype monster, we all know the media likes to get, a headline and just run with it. Well, Joe Milton is a victim of the hype monster, a little bit like our Detroit Lions, also being very hyped, as you guys were talking about on the GCP last night, you and Musa. But Tennessee, same kind of thing. They're sipping that orange Kool-Aid, and they're expecting Joe Milton to not miss a step. He was really hyped when he's at Michigan. We've seen flashes from him that opening night, 2020 against Minnesota. He looked like everything everybody thought he was going to be coming in. We thought he was about to be the face. People bought their number 5 Milton jerseys that night. And then we all know how 2020, the COVID year, went. We like to call it the dark ages over here in Ann Arbor, as John liked to remind me. And yeah, I don't know if Joe is going to be able to survive the hype. He wasn't when he's here in Ann Arbor, and he's in a situation in Tennessee where, believe it or not, that hype is ratcheted up from where it was. He's now a different player, a couple years older, more experienced. We've seen him have a lot of success in the Orange Bowl against Clemson. That was his first shot, really, to have full control of the offense, and he did great things. He led them to a resounding win in the Orange Bowl between Tennessee and Clemson, but that just kind of fueled the fire of the expectations that he's going to have to live up to. And we're going to get into it when we're going over and unders and our outlooks here in a minute. But this year, to rebound, do the same thing that Tennessee did last year, is going to be no easy task. So I'll just leave it at that. One more quick thing about Joe Milton. I took a family vacation up to the Upper Peninsula in the beginning of July to Quamanon Falls, beautiful area. Go check it out. I had a Tennessee fan, an old man. I was wearing my JJ jersey, repping the Wolverines, baby, and in the UP. Got to do it. Great photo op with Finnan. And a Tennessee fan stops me dead to rights and says, "Sir, I would like to thank you for Joe Milton." And I was like, it's a little preemptive there, sir, but I'll take the credit for giving you Joe Milton, because he got ran out of here as fast as tomorrow's new headlines. And the guy who replaced him, Cade McNamara, he's already out the door. And we all know what's going on this year. JJ also being super hyped, but his replacement is gone. And let's see what Joe does in Tennessee.
Yeah, real quick, just to touch quickly on that. To speak on Joe Milton, he is leaving a hostile environment to enter a new hostile environment. It's not a better circumstance, I guess, if you're trying to escape hostile environments. You're leaving one to arrive in another, and if you can't survive in that environment and you can't thrive in that setting, then you're going to struggle and you're not going to do well. You have to accept the hype that is being presented to you. Those fans are going to hold back. They're expecting a lot. Tennessee and the Volunteers gave the fans a lot, and they're expecting more. They're expecting better. So if you can't give them that, or it can't amount to that, you can't hold the rope, then you're gonna be crumbling under the under the lights. And it's unfortunate to see that happen to so many athletes year after year. But I'm hoping for bigger and better things for Joe Milton. He's an older individual now. He's more mature, and I'm hoping that he can succeed and thrive in the SEC.
Definitely. All right, let's get into the rest of the SEC. We're going to follow the theme that we've been carrying every week here and start with some over-under, some win totals projection. I'm up to bat first this week. I'm taking on the SEC East, the Bulldogs, the Gators, the Vols, and Joe Milton. And John's got the West, Nick Saban, Bama, LSU, Ole Miss. So let's get right into it. I'm going first, and we're going to go right down the line here. Throw up a graphic for John. And yeah.
Yeah, let's go
SEC
rapid
East.
fire. Let's go rapid fire. Cody, I
Yes,
hope you're
sir.
hungry because I'm about to feed you some lines, and I'm expecting some good answers.
I'm ready.
Okay, so let's start it off with South Carolina and the Gamecocks. 6 wins, over -125, under +105.
Yeah, talked really highly about South Carolina when we talked about the ACC. I like Spencer Rattler, and I like Shane Beamer at the helm. 6 wins. I circled this. It's just so low. They have a tough schedule. They do, but I think they get at least 7 wins, and I like the odds. It seems like some easy money.
Yeah, Vegas likes that one too. He takes the over. Moving on, the big dogs, no pun intended. Georgia, 11.5 wins, basically a perfect schedule, perfect season there. Over +115, under -135.
Yeah, nobody said they could do it last year. Nobody thought they could do what they did the year before, replicate that success, and they did. It won't be as easy as it was last year, but they have a cupcake schedule. Go over that in a minute. I think they get to 12-0. I do, and it's plus money on top of it. Bet it.
Wow, impressive. Tennessee and the Volunteers, 9.5 wins, over +155, under -180. Doesn't look like Vegas is really betting on Joe Milton. What do you got here?
Yeah, yep. They have a hell of a schedule. Some tough places to play, and just some tough opponents all around. Going to be tough to beat Alabama twice and in a row. And we know what happens when they met up with Georgia last year. That defense just could not keep up. I'm taking the under.
Taking the under. Florida Gators, 5.5 wins, over -130, under +110.
Purely because of how hard it is to play in Gainesville. And I think it just can't just continue to be Florida and be in the gutter of the SEC, the swamp waters. And they have a Big Ten quarterback in a new position, Graham Mertz. I'm going to take the over for Florida here.
Taking the over. Kentucky, 7 wins, over -115, under -105. Just to remind you, they're a basketball school.
They are, and they do not have Will Levis anymore, but they do have NC State transfer Devin Leary coming in, and he is a seasoned passer. And their opening schedule is Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, Akron, and Vandy. I think they start 4-0, and they squeak out a couple more wins and get that over.
Impressive. Gets them to 8 wins. Missouri, 6.5 wins, over +105, under -125. What do you got here?
Yeah, Missouri lost the best thing that they had in Rara Thomas, a wide receiver that is now playing for the Georgia Bulldogs. And I think that, drops their ceiling a little bit. I'm going with the under.
Going with the under. Vanderbilt, the dregs of the SEC East, 3.5 wins, over -175, under +150.
Yeah, Vanderbilt is really, like the Rutgers Northwestern of the Big Ten. It almost got to test them here soon to see if they deserve to be in a conference that is considered super. So I'm going to take the under here. The Commodores are going to have a tough year again. And they're a baseball school, unlike Kentucky in basketball. Vanderbilt, they get some baseball natties, but that's about all they're getting, okay?
Hey, got to call it how you see them. Let's move on to the SEC West real quick before we get into too much other nitty-gritty. We're going to dive into some of these teams in more depth. So feed me, Cody. I'm hungry. Let's see what you got for me.
I'll throw the graphic up for myself here, make it a little easy. We're going to start with the Land Sharks, Ole Miss. 7.5 wins, -115 for the over, -105 for the under.
Give me the under. Under 7.5. We'll take it.
Very good, very good. Right
Short
to
and
the
sweet,
next one
baby.
here. Yep, Alabama. Finished last season 11-2. Their win total is set at 10.5. +150 for the over, -175 for the under.
So everyone's going to be rooting against Alabama, kind of like everyone always does. We're going to be talking about some of the recruits, some of the transfers that they have here later on. Give me the over. I'm going to be riding with the Crimson Tide on that over side. And you might be saying I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but I would disagree with that. But give me the over.
Yeah, you don't bet against Bill Belichick and you don't bet against Nick Saban. So I think you are a
That's
smart
facts.
man for that. Moving on to LSU, go Tigers. Brian Kelly's second year, 9.5 the win total, -125 for the over, +105 for the under.
You know what? Give me the under here. I like go Tigers. Okay, go Tigers. But the Kelly era, I think it's going to lose its luster. It's going to lose its luster quicker than you thought it did. So give me the under there. It's kind of going out on a limb. It's kind of controversial / hot take, but I think I'm known for stuff like that. So give me the under.
It fits in though because they won the SEC West last year. You have Bama going to over, so it only makes sense. They're gonna win the SEC West this year, make a rebound.
Exactly.
Your logic matches up. That's all that matters. All right,
That's right.
Mississippi State, 6.5 wins, +145 for the over, -165 under.
You know the Mississippi State. They have a tough spot to be in. Being in the SEC, facing some of these great teams, kind of the middle of the pack. They have potential to be really good. Sitting there at 6.5, it could go either way. 7 wins in the SEC is a lot of wins. You're looking at a lot of games in conference to get, but they are very capable of surprises. And I like this Mississippi State team, so I got to take the over there. Give me the 7 wins. I'll take the over.
All right, all right. Moving on to Peyton Thorne, Hugh Freeze in Auburn. They are also at 6.5 wins, -140 for the over, +120 for the under.
I got to ride with Vegas here, and this is a bet that if I do take it, I'm not butthurt if I don't win it. So I got to take the over, get me to 7 wins. Peyton, take me home, baby.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Take me home tonight, Peyton. All right. A&M, we got 8 wins. Looking for a rebound year for Jimbo Fisher. -115 for the over, -105 for the under. So a little bit of, 50-50 almost here.
Okay, so Vegas has some uncertainty, which, it could go either way. They know just about as much as we do, and I would go out on a limb saying they know less than we do. So A&M, very gritty team, very hard fought team, year after year. Very, I'd say they're in the top third of the SEC as a whole. But I got to take the under here. Rooting against the Aggies, and it's controversial, but you can't take all of them.
Yeah. Something about the Aggies I just can't get behind. I don't know if it's Jimbo Fisher. They're always top 5 in recruiting, but not really translating to wins anymore. So kind of head scratching there, but I'm rooting against them. So I like that pick. Let's finish it up with the Razorbacks and Arkansas. 7 wins, +125 for the over, -145 for the under. I got some dogs on the Arkansas team.
They do. Arkansas is a serious team representing the SEC West, and I like this Arkansas Razorbacks team. Like you mentioned, they have some serious threats both on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side. So I'm going to take the over there. I'm going to take the over. I think I have enough room to contend with the SEC East. And you're going to have some cross-conference play there, cross-division play, rather, in the SEC conference. You're going to have a couple out-of-conference games. So give me the over there. You're going to have to win your preseason games. You're going to have to win those early ones against the scrub teams. But I think they get to 8, and I think they do it with grace. So I like the over.
Nice. All right, that,
Like that.
brings us to the conclusion of our little rapid fire round. I think we're getting better at the rapid fire part of that. I think we're slowly improving.
It's more fluent. It's more smooth. It's like soft serve, basically soft serve ice cream, and what can you say? But it's a beautiful thing.
All right, so let's come back to the East first, and then we'll go to the West. Talk about some real contenders in each, and let's start with your reigning two-time national champions, the Georgia Bulldogs. All right, just I said it earlier. Moving on, a kind of a forward team like the Bulldogs, a transitional period. The mailman Stetson Bennett is now in LA, SoFi Stadium, living it up, playing for the Rams, and looking to be the heir apparent there when Mr. Matthew Stafford, moves on to his next step in life. And now Kirby Smart is trying to do something that hasn't been done since like the 30s or 40s, and that's bring a three-peat home for your program. And man, they're positioned to do it. You guys heard me take the over 11 and a half wins, which I don't want to do that. Georgia fans are obnoxious. They're giving me all the shit in the world for the CFP loss a couple years ago. We had Kid McNamara, not JJ McCarthy. It's different. But unfortunately, I think the Bulldogs are back in the CFP this year. Carson Beck, the guy who's replacing Stetson Bennett, is walking into a loaded offense, ready just to replicate what they've been doing for 2 years. And even if they aren't clicking on all cylinders week in and week out, we know that defense is going to be. We've seen lots of people again get drafted, go to the NFL, but I think by mid-season, maybe even a quarter way through week 4 or 5, everyone's going to know the name Mikael Williams. He comes off the edge and he makes life a living hell for any quarterback trying to complete a pass. So that's just to say that this loaded offense with two of the best transfer wide receivers in Dominic Lovett and Rara Thomas coming in from other SEC teams and trying to really make Georgia have a claim for wide receiver U and combat the Ohio State Buckeyes, Marvin Harrison, Ime Uboka, and Fleming. So that's without even mentioning one of the best football players in all of college football. Definitely the best tight end in all of football. That's Brock Bowers. Dude is Gronkowski. We hear that a lot, baby Gronk 2.0, but Brock Bowers is him, everybody. And when you have a guy like that as your leading receiver last year, and he's coming back and just building on his repertoire, going to probably go in the top 10 picks next year. It's just going to be too easy for a guy like Carson Beck to route the schedule that they have in front of them. Their toughest game is November 18th at Tennessee. And I told you, I think Tennessee's taking a step back this year. And I think the path is paved at least to the SEC championship and the playoffs. But, I think of a team like Alabama or LSU is right in the mix. A one-loss Georgia team who's been there the last 2 years, they're walking right back into the CFP over a Pac-12 champion or maybe an ACC champion. Who knows? But they have the brand and they have just the accountability, the consistency over 2-3 years now, where they've only racked up 1 or 2 losses, and they are the staple for college football as it is right now. Do you want to talk a little bit about Georgia before I move on to my next SEC East team?
No, keep running the SEC East. I'll get into Georgia and the rest of the, I'll get into the rest of the West afterwards. Just keep it rolling, and I think that's good. There's so many teams in the SEC. That's the thing too, and we're going to see this happen more and more as time goes on. There's so many teams being added to both of these conferences where it's almost like you'll exhaust yourself talking about every single team. You got to talk about the big teams. You got to talk about the teams that are rising stars. We got to wait for the season to get here before we can start talking about those. So yeah, just keep it rolling, and the SEC East is a serious division in the SEC, but I think it's very much balanced compared to, say, the Big Ten as it was historically, not as balanced.
All right, so the next team in the East here was kind of a toss-up for me. I couldn't decide between South Kakalaki, Spencer Rattler, or the Tennessee Volunteers, but coming off Tennessee's immaculate year last year, getting the win against Alabama, and really just being able to light up the cigars coming off that success, winning the Orange Bowl, I felt that they deserved. the hype. And if we're going by bowl wins, South Kakalaki, they lost to Notre Dame in their bowl game, the Gator Bowl. So seeds to Tennessee here. And Joe Milton, I've talked about him a lot. So let's talk about some other pieces of his offense. We know we lost Jalen Hylett and Cedric Tillman. So those are hard pieces, hard wide receivers to replace. But you got a guy named Squirrel White at the top of that depth chart now. Yes, I said squirrel. You got Squirrel White in Tennessee, a wide receiver, and he is elusive. He's hard to get your hands on, kind of like his animal counterpart, and everybody's going to know his name. Just like I said, Georgia, Mikael Williams. Even if Tennessee doesn't have the season success, Joe Milton and Squirrel Light are going to have a great connection, connect for a lot of deep throws down the field. Give the Tennessee fans a lot to cheer about. But they're going to Bryant-Denny Stadium this year. Alabama is not coming to Knoxville, so it's going to be a rude awakening. They're going to come crashing back down to earth when Nick Saban, their Jaden Milroe, step-in quarterback, still a quarterback battle. Actually, nobody has been the name the starter at Alabama, but I don't think they need a starting quarterback to beat this Tennessee team because just when the going gets tough, the defense can't keep up. That's what we saw against Georgia. That's what we saw against South Carolina. And South Carolina hung like 60 points on them and just kind of dismantled what was already building to be an undefeated season before Georgia knocked them off a peg. South Carolina came in and just lit them up and exposed that defense. And I think that issue is going to come up again this year. I don't think they have anybody in the secondary to stop some of these high dynamic, high lethal, potent weapons in the SEC.
Yeah, you mentioned Jalen Milroe there, the redshirt sophomore. As it stands, is at the top of the depth chart for Alabama, but you also have Tyler Buckner, the sophomore transfer from Notre Dame, which is going to be, he's going to have potential. I'm sure he's playing in some preseason, route running and different things in training camp. He's getting looked at. He could be the QB1. We really don't know. I think they're going to maybe go back and forth in some of their preseason games. But they're gonna make a decision. Nick Saban is gonna pick the man for the job. He is not a 2-quarterback type of coach. He doesn't run a 2-quarterback offense down there in Alabama and Tuscaloosa. So that's going to be interesting to see how that kind of develops in the absence of Bryce Young. So I'm excited to see how it's going to happen, but we know that Alabama is a win-now program. We know that they have to win right now. They have to get the job done, and that's just the program that Nick Saban has bred in the Alabama Crimson Tide since he arrived on campus in 2007. So lots to look forward to in the SEC as a whole. I'm going to pull this graphic back up for the SEC West, if you don't mind, Cody. So we're going to look at Alabama a little bit closer. You got Jermaine Burton out there, the junior transfer from Georgia, the Georgia Bulldogs. He did play there last year, and he transferred. He transferred out into enemy territory, going to Tuscaloosa from Georgia. That's kind of an impressive thing to see. So you also got Ja'Cory Brooks out there, and you got Kobe Prentice out there, the sophomore. We're excited to see what these guys can do. And you also got Malik Benson. He's a wide receiver transfer from Hutchinson Community College. As we previously mentioned, Jalen Milroe, the redshirt sophomore, with Tyler Buckner possibly stepping in there if they see fit. And you also got Jace McCullen, the senior at RB1, and Roydell Williams, the senior at RB2. So they're kind of looking for depth with the running back position. You also got Jam Miller, the sophomore, coming in, possibly going to be the next level, the next era of a running back, of any running back for Alabama and the Crimson Tide. And you also got Tresman Marshall, the redshirt senior, and he's also a transfer from Georgia. So you got people transferring within the SEC from enemy territory into enemy territory. You're turning these players, these young athletes, into traders. That's what you're doing. But basically, and they're looking for bigger and better opportunities. Obviously, NIL deals and different opportunities to start and play have a lot to do with it. I'm poking fun out there. But it's exciting to see this happen within the SEC. You're seeing these players We mentioned the Joe Milton thing, transferring from one hostile environment into another. We're seeing this happen more and more year after year. We're seeing the transfer portal stay local. As far as far as hostile environments go, at least. There's a lot to be unfolded. You got a lot of new athletes. You got a lot of people that graduated last year in both of these big shot powerhouse teams in the SEC. So it's just going to be exciting to see. Moving on, let's talk about LSU. So you got Kyron Lacey, the senior transfer from Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, as your wide receiver X, your wide receiver one. You got Brian Thomas, the junior, coming out of, he's the wide receiver Z. He's going to be on the other side of the ball, or other side of the quarterback, rather, and he's going to be taking passes. He's going to be taking passes from Jaden Daniels, the senior transfer from Arizona State. We're looking forward to seeing what they can do, going a little bit of Pac-12 to SEC action. You're really turning up the NOS. You're punching the NOS when you're talking about transferring to a hostile environment. Now, Arizona State and the Sun Devils, that is by no means a non-hostile environment. You're in a hostile environment in Arizona State when you're playing there. But transferring into a conference like the SEC, it's the big leagues. You're transferring to the big leagues. So we're going to see how Jaden Daniels really takes that on. You got Noah Kane, the senior transfer from Penn State, playing running back one. And also at wide receiver Y, you got Malik Neighbors, the junior. So you got a lot of threats at LSU, and I got to say, go Tigers! Just because they're gonna, they have to win. They're running under the Kelly regime, and they got to do what they got to do to win. They're a win now program in the SEC, and basically we saw that from the Coach Bergeron era and the Joe Burrow era. But even going back deeper into the history books, we can see LSU as a win now program, similar to teams like Alabama. Auburn they're a used to be team. Ole Miss is a used to be team. Florida is a used to be team. So you got teams that are used to be teams that might not be as strong as they used to be, but they're on the up and up, and hopefully that they can reclaim that status of a win now program. But it all leaves a lot to be determined, because you have to wait for these things to unfold. You have to wait for games to be played, and you just gotta wait and see. It's a waiting game, unfortunately, with a lot of this stuff. Who's going to succeed? Who's going to rise to the occasion? Are these transfers going to do any work here at their new college, new university, or is it going to not be a good fit? Only time can tell.
Yeah, man. One guy I think we got to mention real quick. He's a running back out of Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin, Jackson Dart are the big names, but Blake Corum is considered RB1 kind of in the country right now. RB1A is the guy named Quinshon Judkins, and he is about to light the college football world on fire. Defenses need to make a whole plan for him, and he's going to be a problem for any of these SEC teams, because I know they're sleeping on him, but they about to wake up for Quinshon, baby. He looks. I really like Ole Miss. Their outfits. They got a versatility in their unis. They got the dark blue, they got the white, the red, and they got the powder blue. I think those are the cleanest. But I'm expecting good things from the Land Sharks and Lane Kiffin. Jackson Dart, I think he should take that step. He's kind of untested into the lighter half of his SEC schedule last year, and then got a rude awakening. But I think they take a step. Well, a team like LSU had so much success, won the SEC West last year, might take a small step back. Not huge, just a small step.
Hey, there's so much potential for movement in the SEC as a whole, both in the East and the West. You got teams that could be dark horses that can come out of nowhere and play very well. You got teams that are expected to play well that could play like shit. It's just kind of one of those things. You really don't know until you watch the season unfold. And you could see a dynamic shift based on how some of these preseason games go, or even some off matchups. Say a Alabama versus a Missouri. You could see some crazy shit happen in a game like that. So a lot to be determined. Nothing is a lock. I have to say it real quick. Disclaimer here on the show: we're all betting degenerates here at GSN. And some more than others. Some hold the rope, and we can't hold a candle of some of these guys. But nothing is a lock. Nothing is a lock until the fat lady starts singing, and she's singing sweet melodies at the end of the game, at the final buzzer when zeros are on the scoreboard in the jumbotron. So just had to put that out there. PSA. That's it.
Yeah, I think it's a good point to bring to everyone's attention because it's college football. Chaos is a part of it. That's what we love about it. And we
That's
love
right.
the parody. We don't like, even though we still see some dynasties, we love the parody. We love the TCUs of the world. And we'd love to see a dark horse come out of it, a team, a conference, I should say, like the SEC.
Exactly. We love it. We love the fight, and we love the dogs.
That brings us to our weekly segment where we take a step away from the hard hitting tackles, the touchdown passes, and we go to something a little more superficial. Hair. I have beautiful facial hair, and John has a beautiful head of hair, and he is on a quest to make that head of hair more beautiful. Uh, to take a step forward in his hair growth journey and just bring a little more to the plate, you know? And that's what our mullet of the week did year in and year out. It just kept getting better. That's the thing to remember about this guy. He came in, hair was kind of short. You'll see in some of the pictures, and it grew into this could has an argument, I think, for one of the best mullets you'll be shown on the Gin College podcast. Without further ado, um, Steve Tannehill, everybody, earns this week's mullet of the week. And would you look at that? Just blowing in the wind. He knows what's up. He had a hat inspired from his hairdo. It was so legendary. Got the mullet coming out of the hat there, the Carolina script writing, and he can't believe it. How do you feel about the hat? How do you feel about this mullet of the week, Steve Tannehill? I'll go over some of his accolades with the Gamecocks here in a second. I just want to get your thoughts on those locks.
Yeah, it's a beautiful head of hair. It's a little bit more diverse than some of the mullets that we've seen. You really have the party in the back. You have the more kind of business semi formal slash casual. Got an interview in the morning, but I also got a discotheque to attend in the evening. Kind of vibe coming out of this mullet. And there is volume there. Contrary to the picture, the wind is actually blowing against his back, which if he actually switched positions, the wind would be blowing with the mullet. So you're going to have a little bit more wind action there. But nevertheless, I mean, this hat, this hat right here, I don't know if that's fan made or if that was made by the university or special ordered from somewhere. But this is impressive. I think we got to bring this hat back to some effect. And eventually, with this entire segment, we're going to get into some more of the modern mullets that we still see to this day. They're not as prevalent as they were back in the golden age of football as a whole, NFL, college football. Both of them. I mean, those are the golden ages before we had review booths and before we had, penalties for hitting a defenseless receiver. This is the golden age. This is when football was football. Okay, and football is still football to a certain degree, but nothing like it was back in these days. So that's why we call it the golden age, the golden era of football as a whole. But beautiful head of hair. I love it. I love what I see. It's flowing outside the bottom of the Riddell helmet there. Beautiful sight to see, and the fans got to love it.
Yes, yes, they were big fans of this man right here. Did so much for the Gamecocks. When he came in, 1992 was his first year, and that was actually South Carolina's inaugural year in the Southeastern Conference. Before that, for about 20 years, they were independent. Believe it or not, they were
Wow.
independent for about 20 years, and then the 20 years prior to that, they were a part of the ACC. What was the ACC back then? Obviously, looked a little different, but anyway, Steve takes over. They're 0-5 in their inaugural year when he gets the nod. He didn't get the starting job to start the year, and that's okay because it doesn't matter how you start the game, it matters how you finish the game. And he went on to start the rest of the games for the Gamecocks for his 4 years and kept getting better and better, throwing more touchdowns and improving his QBR. He still holds the single season passing yards or single game passing yards record with 512 in one game. He sits alone at the top, only South Carolina QB with 500 yards. And there's been Spencer Rattler is going to try to challenge him. He's second or third on the list. He did that last year, and but nobody was ever going to forget Steve Tannehill and what he meant to the Gamecocks, and really put them on the map for the SEC. Gave them someone to cheer for, gave them an identity, and that picture on the left that you guys can see if you're watching the live stream, that was a huge, huge moment for him. He just beat the Clemson Tigers for the first time in a long time. It was a non-conference matchup at this point because they were ACC members, both of them at one time, so they had a long, illustrious history, and it had been a long time since they had felt those Gamecock fans had felt the the victory cheers, and Steve Tannehill brought that back to them, and that's why he is a South Carolina Gamecock legend. Besides that beautiful head of hair that he has, which has kind of cemented him into history. Why we're talking about him here, because he's on the list of top 25 mullets of sports history, and sometimes it goes beyond the sport, and that's why we have this segment.
Yeah, a lot of times it does go beyond the sport because, and I don't know if you knew about this, but Cam Smith, the golfer, professional golfer, before he switched to the dark side and went to live golf, he had a buddy say, "Hey, Cam, you should grow a mullet out." And he's like, "Oh, he's like, nah, I'm good." And then he's like, "Okay, you know what? I'll do it." And then he wound up playing the best golf of his life. And then he just found all these different positives coming from his life after that. And he credited the mullet for that, and he still has a mullet to this day. So there are things, there are omens, I would say, positive omens that are attached to a mullet. There's a different energy along with it. And there might be something real there. There might be something real. I'm not really a big superstitious guy. I'm not a big zodiac guy. Not big into horoscopes. But when you talk about auras, you talk about hairstyles and accolades, both on and off the field or the playing surface. There is something to be said about it, and the proof is in the pudding.
I like it. I like it. I think that's a good place to leave it for the week. It's been a great show, man.
Yeah, man. I'm having a great time. I'm feeling loose. I actually had golf league tonight. Shot at 36, so feeling pretty good. We actually won the league. We won the league. I subbed in the league. It was the last 3 weeks. We had a buddy of ours that actually family friend that moved down to Florida, and I had to step in for him with Scott. And shout out Beef Wager. Hope he's doing good down in Florida. We brought home the bread, baby.
Wow.
So yeah,
Came in
very happy about that.
The ninth hour there and kind of stole the show.
I did.
A little Tua to Jalen Hurts type of energy there.
Yes,
very
much
fitting.
so.
Very fitting for the SEC week.
Very much so. And I still got a pre-mullet going. It's still loading. Okay, still loading. Yes. So I've had people talk to me, hey, it's looking really good. I'll say, hey, oh man, that's too short, man. It's not a mullet yet. I'm like, the mullet's still loading. Okay, you got to take a breath here.
So you don't become a national champion overnight. It's a week in, week out process. You don't go undefeated just in 4 weeks. It
doesn't just happen.
It takes the length of a season.
And Rome wasn't built in a day. All right, has to be noted. But yeah, I think you summed it up perfectly there, Cody. Great job with the Steve Tannehill mullet of the week. Another notch on the belt of the segment, which is the mullet of the week. That's only going to get better and better week after week. So we're excited to bring that to the folks out there, the fans of the GCP. But we'll leave it at that for the week. Cody, you got any final words, final thoughts for the people out there watching and listening?
Thanks for tuning in, everybody who did. Thank you for listening. As you do in the future, watching the video tomorrow. We see all the views. We appreciate it. We love it. Ratcheting up every week, and we're almost there. Kickoff is almost here. Big Ten next week, and then we have football 3 days after that. So we'll talk a little bit week 0 next week as well. And, hey, we're going to be off and rolling before no time, and my energy is at an all-time high. I don't know about you, man, but ready to go.
Oh yeah, we're right at the crescendo point. And just to forewarn everybody, just to let everybody know, Cody and I have delved into the catacombs of the college football discussion on Facebook. So we're all over the place on Facebook and all these different groups having different discussions. We're chiming in. We're starting controversy. We're lighting fires where maybe we shouldn't light fires. We're basically like little kids with a matchbook. on there. So join the conversation, join the fun, and get involved, because we got to see you on there. We want to see you a part of the conversation, a part of the journey. So join us on Facebook. Join us on our website, ginsportsnetwork.com, and follow us on social media. It is in our link tree that is always posted at the bottom of this podcast in the description. So check us out on all of our mediums, and we look forward to seeing you guys next time. But for now, I got to let you guys go. I'm John J. II here with Cody Almasy for the Gin College Podcast. Have a great night.